Well, we said 2017 was going to be the year of the folding drone, and here's another one for me to review, kindly supplied by GearBest. This is from a company I've never worked for or even heard of before, which is Simtoo, and this is called the Dragonfly drone. Smart looking drone, and the most important thing is how it's going to work. The box is really nicely boxed, sort of slick design, as they tend to be coming out now as well. Apparently it's your personal flying photographer. It shoots 4K and it's got 3-axis stabilised gimbal on it as well. Just the usual sort of things around the box. Very plain and simple. But the one thing you notice about the box is actually when the courier guy dropped it off, he didn't think it was going to be a drone, because this box is weighing in at 3.5 kilos, so it's seriously heavy. Getting on for the weight of my Typhoons, I think, by the feel of the box, certainly. So just open, it sort of opens up from the bottom, and it's really well packed. I mean, this thing not only weighs a ton, it's also extremely solidly packed. It does feel like a sort of lead acid battery when you're picking it up. So we've got our accessories in there, as you saw. I'm going to get everything out on the bench, but just so you can see how well everything's packaged up. Battery, transmitter, etc. We go through it all, and there's the quad's actually already in a nice little hard sort of carry case as well. So this is everything that basically didn't come in the red case. We've got the landing gear, which is obviously going to be easy slide in and out, I would hope, where it's a folding drone. But we'll run through that when we get it ready for the flight. We've got our battery, which is a 5200 milliamp hour 3-cell battery. This is where a lot of our weight's coming from. And I was really pleased to see that it's got an XT60 female connector here, and you've got your balance charger port here as well, so I'll be able to charge it up on my hobby grade charger, which I'll put a link in description to the one I use. But having said that, the actual charger that comes with it looks really nice. It takes 2 and 3 cells, and I'm pretty sure these are going to be LEDs across the top here showing you the charge state as it's charging, and it puts out at 2 amps, which is pretty good. I mean, it does feel a substantial charger, not like some of the ones that you get. And the only thing is we do have 5200 milliamp hour battery there, so it's going to take sort of 3 hours to charge, best part of 3 hours, so I can do that a lot quicker on a hobby grade charger. Talking about the LEDs on the charger, there's actually LEDs on the back of the battery as well, so if I just turn that on, it's been supplied in storage state, so it's only got the 2 cells illuminated out of the 4, and we get that on charge. Obviously that will come right up to the 4 then, but I'm liking the look of this already, that from the back of the quad you'll be able to tell, or if you've got spare batteries you'll be able to quickly press the button and find out what state of storage they're in. We get 3 cables with it. You've got the balance charger cable, which basically connects from the charger into the actual battery itself. You've got 2 USB cables here. One goes to a mini USB and one goes to a micro USB. You get a little rubber duck or stick antenna there as well. And then there's a little mobile phone holder as well, which all goes together on the transmitter, obviously. Now the transmitter is really nice. It's quite slim, as you can see. It's quite elegant looking, I think, but it's got these massive great bulges here. I hope the camera will pick that up, that really sit comfy in the hands, and it's sort of shaped round. So if I hold, it's going to be upside down on camera, but basically there, feels really nice in the hand. Really good feel to it. It's got a single cell battery in there, and you charge it with the little micro USB cable there, so I'll check the charge on that, but we'll fully charge it up before we run through the rest of the review. It's obviously got altitude hold because both the sticks are centered, and it feels really nice in the hand, but be interested to see how it actually flies. Onto the actual hard shell case, and it's pretty hard shelled. It's not a solid one like some of the ones I've had before, but it's got a little bit of give in it, but it's certainly going to protect your quad. But it does seem amazingly thick, so deep, sorry, so we'll see how we get on with it. It's got a really smart, good carrying handle, and this massive great zip, as you can see there. But the nice little thing about the carrying handle is you can pop it off the connector there, sort of thing, pop it onto here, and then you can carry it the other way. So you can sort of carry it landscape mode, I would call, or portrait mode, so I think that's quite handy. I would have preferred a long strap, so I would rather throw it over my shoulder or across my back actually, but these are really good, well attached, so be able to stick your own strap on there. I shall certainly do that with mine. And then in through this massive great zip, and there we have it. so a little bit of protection there. We've got the props can slide into there, and you've got in the top bit here, you've got the instruction manual as well, which I'll go through and give what I think of their instructions, so see how good they are. We've got a load of space in there that you can then store some stuff in, and the props wouldn't be able to go on here because they're going to hang right out here, so obviously you can't transport it with the props, that's why it's got this little bit in here. And then onto the actual quad itself, and that's the reason it's so deep, is because the actual depth of the quad is pretty thick there, because of that massive battery that hangs underneath it. And then we on to the gimbal and camera are already assembled, which is rather nice. So you've got 3 axes, so you've got 1 and then 2, sorry, 2 and then 3 as well. So that's, yeah, it's sort of all singing, all dancing really, rather good. And the way that attaches to the quad, it's obviously got little connectors here that will clip it into position, so it's very similar to my unique quad and hex. And then this little thing here is a little sort of wrist controller, which I'll run through when we get it all fired up and everything, and I'll give it a flight with this, just see how good this is compared to the actual transmitter itself. And then on to the main event itself, the actual quad, and it's, as you obviously saw earlier, it's really folded up nice and tight. Interestingly, not a bit of graphics on it, no colours, no logo, no identification of who made it or what it's called, to be perfectly honest. So a little bit unusual that way. They usually have some sort of thing that tells you who made it at least. Now the arms come out into a spring-loaded ball here, and then there's a little hole just there that the ball pops into. So you just pull it out and you can hear it sort of click in there, and then it's got quite a bit of resistance, and then actually when you push it hard, it will then, the ball pops back out the way and it opens back up. So in an impact or anything, the arms would probably fold out the way. You'd probably wreck your quad, but the arms are going to be out the way. And the only bit of carbon fibre on it is there's a little bit of box section that form the whole arm. It goes right up to the motor housing and right the way back into here, and that's going to give you a lot of strength there, and obviously taking just a little bit of weight off. With the arms right out, it then becomes quite a presence. They call it a 400mm quad. Well, I actually measured it 410 centre to centre on the motors that way, 290 from there to there, and from there to there is 290 as well. So just gives you an idea in my hand and everything exactly how big it is. When that's got 9-inch props on it, it's going to be quite a presence in the air, so quite smart. The motors themselves are 2212, 100 watts, and the actual ESCs are 20 amp rated, so I mean it should be fine. I mean, it's totally designed to do what it's going to do, sort of thing. The putting the battery in, just before I do that, there's the XT60 connection, and then there's another little one I just found there, which is a micro USB, which will obviously be used for firmware updates, and there's another little connector there that we can get to as well, so whether or not we need to access that at any time, I don't know. The battery basically just plugs into here. So with the battery, I don't think I've had anything like this. I don't have any DJI Phantoms or anything, so I'm not used to having this button system. But obviously it doesn't power up the XT60 until you've turned that on, which is quite good. So it keeps that nice and safe. Not that it's a connector that is dangerous anyway, but just in case you're wondering why there's no power coming out of there, you have to actually turn it on there. And that obviously turns the quad on as well. So it just sits in, you just come right the way back there, and it sits into its own slots, and there's a little release catch there that we'll use when we take it apart, and it just clicks fully into position, and then we're all ready to go. Don't forget, it's got to get the XT60 into the male to female in. That's usually quite a little bit of a fiddle to get in, so but mine lines up really well, nice and smooth there. We'll just turn it on. Let's have a look at some LEDs. I have charged the battery, and we've got red LEDs at the front. And there you've got 3 on each arm, and they're actually quite nice because they've got a dome on them, as you can clearly see, so you'll virtually be visible from anywhere below the quad, or even horizontal with the quad, so that's quite good. And then you've got some nice blue ones on the back. We run through all the warnings and everything when I'm actually going for the flight, so all looks pretty good. Now we're talking about flights. This is supposed to do around 50 miles an hour maximum. And the follow me mode gets you about 25 miles an hour. So I won't be jogging at that speed, but we'll see how we get on with it anyway. And distances, recommend it's maximum flight of 400 meters high and 1,000 meters or a kilometer distance. Onto the camera and gimbal assembly, and it comes all assembled. I've just taken it apart just to show you this bit of the sort of unboxing. It does just slide into a mini USB there, and then that obviously connects it all up into the system, and then just put this little strap on there. So I've just taken that off for ease here. There is a little micro USB connector there, but I'm pretty sure that will be for firmware updates on the gimbal. I don't think it would actually power the camera up to charge it up. I'm not prepared to risk it, to be honest. It doesn't say it in the paperwork. So I couldn't read it in there. I really don't want to fry this gimbal before I even get it airborne. The camera itself is really nice. It seems really nice anyway. It comes with a 1250 milliamp hour a single cell battery in the back that is easily replaceable, so if you wanted to have a spare with you, you could do. They actually quote a much lower one. I think it's 960 they quote, so that's a bonus already we got in there. It's 170-degree field of view, and it's a Sony CMOS chip in there, and it's 16 megapixels apparently. So I'll just power it on. There we go, and it's going to go off and try and connect up to the system and everything on the Wi-Fi and that. So just turn it off with that one there. And then if we want to change anything on it, we can just run through. It's just like the normal sort of GoPro style or GoPro copies. Go into the menu area there, and then you can select what you want to change. So and whatever one it's on, there we go. It shoots 120 frames per second, which is slow motion, and 60, and then 4K. It does shoot 4K, but it's 25 frames per second, which I don't have a problem with. I shoot that on my Typhoon H, or I shoot 30 frames a second, but 25 is absolutely fine, I think. The one thing you don't get, and they do tell you that it comes with it, is a micro SD card, which it must be slotted in there. If not, it's just going to record back to your phone at only 720, so you're going to lose a lot of your resolution there. And also, if you're going to shoot in 4K, you will need a U3 card, so make sure you get a high-speed card, otherwise it just won't keep up with it, and you'll get dropout as well. And once you've selected where you want to go to, you can just scroll down the menus. But it's a really simple system. You soon find your way through it, and then come out of it like that, and then we're ready to go. You actually get a dedicated propeller box. Now, with a dedicated propeller box, you'd expect a whole load of propellers, and what you actually get is this: 4 propellers, and you've got 4 motors, so not a single spare. The minimum I've ever had with any other quad is at least a pair of spares, and invariably you get 4, especially on a quad. I mean, the cost to the company would be negligible. So if you kink one of these or anything happens to one of these, you can't fly. So I think it's really mean. I've sort of got an issue with it, I must admit. They're not bad propellers. They're 9450, and they say they're glass fibre reinforced, so it'd be interesting to see how good they are. A little bit flexible, got quite a bit of flexibility in there, and the silver and black corresponds to what motor they go on, and also they're obviously paired, so you have clockwise and anti-clockwise, and they're self-tightening as well. Onto the user manual, and it's really nice, nicely produced. It sort of just feels good quality, to be perfectly honest. Most of the text, all the text that's sort of just general explanations and stuff is in black, and then any warnings and everything they tend to put down the bottom. On this first page, it's all warnings to be careful that you're not going to damage anything, and your flying restrictions and everything. A list of what you get in the actual kit with the quad, and then, like I say, it sort of follows the same format all the way through. Your red warnings are all down the bottom. They're rather good. Tells you how to pop the props on, how to do the assembly, inserting the gimbal, etc. The camera, all the instructions for the camera is that. So you've got to find your own way around the menus and everything, and what you want to alter and everything else. It doesn't go into depth at all. It's basically just a guide and a pointer. Does the same on the app as well. Tells you where to pick it up from, what the code is, and then basically you're more or less on your own. Just have a fiddle and a play around with it. The antenna as well has a little bit more details, and you can change it if you want to fly basically mode 1, which is the right is the throttle stick. You can change it as well, which is good, and I would expect that on this sort of level of quad. You can also fly in advanced mode as well, so that's rather good, and I shall probably give them both a go when we're out and about. And then the actual, a bit more on to the actual getting it ready to actually bind and take off and everything, and then it runs through all the stick controls. So it is good. It would certainly get you going, but I think there's a lot left with the controls and everything that you then want to play around with afterwards, sort of thing. Certainly on the camera and everything. You've got the orbit mode, gimbal controls as well. We'll run through all this when I actually get it out and fly it. And then you come on to the watch one, and they go ballistic with the watch one. They obviously really like this little transmitter. It goes on for pages basically, and I think you need it as well because there's so many different buttons to what we normally have on our transmitters, I think, and because they've condensed it all down into a watch, I think this might be why they've made a lot of fuss about it. I'll be very interested to see how I can fly with this, because I'm usually not great with very small devices. So, and like I say, this literally goes on for pages, sort of thing, of how to set it and how to change everything. And then finally, fail-safe warranties and disclaimers. So yeah, it's a really nice produced, and it's good. I'm just going to be interested to see how it all transfers into actual flights. It truly is minimal assembly on this quad. You got a little dipole or stick antenna, or rubber duck one, I think I've heard it called before. That just simply goes into the back there, and then the only other thing you've got to assemble on the transmitter is this screw in here, which actually holds your mobile phone in, and it must be the longest screw they could possibly find to put into this transmitter. I'm amazed it doesn't come out the other end here. It is so long, but mind you, it is fully honed, so that's it's definitely there, I suppose, is their argument. So there we go, and that's all ready. Take our phone and we're ready to go out for a flight. Assembling the legs is quite simple, but there's just a little catch there that goes into a little slot on here, and you can either slide it on and then depress that, or actually I found if you just tilt the actual legs back a bit, they just pop in, and then when they're in, they're really secure. You've got to give quite a yank to get them back out. The only thing that does concern me about that is whether or not that would break after a while. If that breaks, then you're just relying on the friction here to hold it on, so if anything happens there, I will let you know. You get two sets of props, silver to silver obviously, and black to black, and they tighten in different ways. The silver ones are normal standard thread, so to tighten you turn them clockwise, and then just hold the motor and just give it a little gentle tweak. When the motor starts spinning, the motor will spin this way, so that's how the prop will tighten. And then it's the opposite on the black one, so pop it on and then you actually tighten the other way. So basically go counterclockwise, just give it a little nip, and again the motor will spin this way, so that tightens the prop. With this setup, you turn on the quad first of all. Get the front LEDs come on first, and then the back ones come on. You get a series of beeps that tells you it's starting to initialise. The camera turns on, and then the gimbal starts to stabilise. The gimbal always seems to start in this location, which seems a bit strange. It doesn't seem centralised or anything, and it's waiting for the signal from the actual transmitter. To alter the what way the gimbal's facing, basically, you turn this one here. But disappointingly, there's no click or anything when it's in centre, which I was a little bit surprised at. Wouldn't really make an awful lot of difference, wouldn't be a deal breaker to me, because I'd probably leave it where it was. I'd rotate the quad rather than rotate the gimbal, but it's, I think, a little bit of an error there. The other thing I thought of doing was just put a little bit of white, spot of white there and there, so you know what's centre, so you can give it a quick look and have a look to see. The other thing you can do with this is you can actually tilt the camera down as well, which is rather nice, and it's reasonably smooth as well. So that was pretty smooth motion there, so you could actually do some sort of panning with it. But one thing I'm very disappointed with, having played around with it, is when you rotate, the camera actually changes angle. So if I go right round the other way, you can see the camera's now pointing up, and now the camera's actually tilting at a peculiar angle. So It does come back to horizon, but it does seem to start off that way, off at a strange angle as it turns, sort of thing. So if I turn it back, perhaps you'll see again. So it's pointing down now. So it sort of points down when it's pointing to its right, and then when you take it back the other way, it sort of points up and then it rotates. So a little bit disappointed with that. I've had a look on the website and I can't find any firmware updates or anything, so don't seem to be able to get rid of that at the moment. The strange thing I find is when the camera's actually centered, it will bring itself to its correct position, and then any movement you do, the 3-axis works really well. So I don't really see why it changes angle when you actually turn it using this control. Ready for the maiden flight, everything's installed, but just thought I'd quickly weigh it before we go out, and it's coming in at 1,366 grams. Whoa! Yay. I got my hand back before it's even started to go, so that's quite a long delay. Well, that seems okay. Now I don't know if you can see that, but I've got a lock behind me that's all the water will be tipping out of. So that's full pitch. That's not doing 50 miles an hour, is it? Yeah, so disappointed. If this winds up being in the final video, which I'm going to have a snippet of it because I can't lie on the reviews. I'm just going to tell you as it is. That's the way I prefer to run the channel. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.